Reference tracks are a really important part of the production and mixing process, especially when we're talking about EQ.
And in this video, we'll look at how to use reference tracks and some tips and tricks on how to look at your spectrum analyzer.
So we've got a session here, and we've loaded up a reference track that we want to use in order to guide us as we finish out the mix of this song. And we're going to play this reference track through Infinity EQ in order to see what the average frequencies are throughout the spectrum.
Did she leave a lot? How many times did she cry a lot? How many chances she done gave you? Fuck around with these thighs every day that.
So this is a very valuable tool when mixing.
We see that there's a lot of lows. It starts to taper off. There's a little bit of a dip in the mids, and it starts to taper off as it gets into the high frequencies. And this is a pretty common curve for this genre of music. So what we're going to do is we're going to play our own mix through Infinity EQ and see what our curve looks like to see if it matches up.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck, she letting me fuck. Gorilla glue, had me real stuck.
So it seems like our mix is a little more flat. There's not as much low end. There's maybe a little bit too many highs and mids.
Exactly. It doesn't look like the reference. Let's take one more look at the reference.
Did she leave a lot? How many times did she cry a lot? How many chances she done gave you? Fuck around with these thighs.
We can see a big boost here in the lows, and it starts to dip and taper off at the highs. Our mix.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy.
It's close, but there's not as big of a bump in the lows, and there's a bit too many mids here. So the first thing we're going to do after realizing this about our mix, we're going to go back and look at the levels of the tracks. Now, a lot of this low end is coming from the 808. Since our lows aren't as big as the reference track, it probably means we need more 808.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck, she letting me fuck. Gorilla glue, had me real stuck. I'm beating it up.
That's already making a big difference. We're seeing a much bigger bump here in our lows, just like the reference track had. The highs of our mix are a little bit too brash as well. So we're going to look at some of the high frequencies like the hi-hats. We might take them down a little bit. And it looks like on one of our hi-hat loops, we actually have a big high frequency boost. So let's take that back a little.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck, she letting me fuck. Gorilla glue, had me real stuck.
So we've adjusted our mix, and our spectrum analyzer is already looking a lot more like our reference track. Let's take one more look at our reference.
Did she leave a lot? How many times did she cry a lot? How many chances she done gave you? Fuck around with these thighs every day that.
And our mix.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck.
So with just those few moves, our lows are looking a little bit more bumpier, our mids are a little bit better, and our highs are a little tapered off.
So now that we've got it in the general ballpark, now we can start looking at any EQ moves that we want to do on the mix bus. For example, we might want to widen up the highs a little bit to add some excitement to this track. So we'll add a high shelf, and we'll put it into mid-side mode. We're just going to boost the sides in the high frequencies.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck, she letting me fuck. Gorilla glue, had me real stuck. I'm beating it up.
So it's a lot more exciting now that we've added that width to the high end.
Absolutely. And like we said before, there might be just a little bit too many mids still. So why don't we just take that and cut it out and hear how that sounds.
Lips, that's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly, calling me Poppy. Dora sloppy, then she go give me that toppy. All in that truck, she letting me fuck. Gorilla glue, had me real stuck. I'm beating it up. I'm beating it up. Not giving a fuck. 21 clips. That's all in your body. Got the little bitch up on Molly.
So much more open and smooth in the mids now. And one really cool feature of Infinity EQ that I want to point out here is that as you're making these moves and adjustments to the bands, we're actually seeing the analyzer react in real time. Instead of having to wait for it to reanalyze and rebalance every time we make an EQ move, we can just quickly see how our EQ moves are affecting the overall spectral balance of the mix.
Whips, that's all in your body. Got that little bitch up a Molly, calling me Poppy. Do a sloppy, that shit go give me that toppy, all in that truck.
So that's the power of using reference tracks within your mixing process, as well as some of the cool features of Infinity EQ that make it even easier to do. Try this out in your own mixes, and you'll be amazed at how much more professional your mixes will sound.